Welcome to the 28th episode of the Bolo Pascual show, where Bolo Pascual talks to people. We have very special guests. We have the hosts of Debatable with Nina and Kyle. And so that means we have Nina and Kyle. And
Yay!
Hi.
we will be asking them questions and talking to them. Oh my gosh, why am I so nervous? About about their
Just
podcast and
relax.
about their debate journey. Um, so they are grand finalists, national grand finalists, world-class debaters. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves further?
Okay, I'm Nina. I'm one half of Debateable, and I've been debating since 2013.
I'm Kyle, the other half. I've been debating since 2010. Actually, this was my 10th year debating. So, like, thankfully, I got somewhere.
Yeah, we've been teammates for over 5 years now or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, so we've been teammates for 5 years, and we decided to start a podcast, and we did that last year.
Mm, yeah, and actually, that's my first question. Like, out of all the teammates that you could start a podcast with, um, why did you start a podcast together? Why specifically, like Nina? Why did you choose Kyle, and Kyle? Why did you choose Nina?
So when we teamed up, it was sort of like very comfortable from the very get go. Our first time prepping together actually is pretty funny because we barely talk to each other, but we wander around anyway. And that's how I knew, like, yeah, this is going to be someone I can team up with often. So that's how we started our debate careers together back in college. And then even after college ended, we were still finding ourselves arguing together and discussing things even amongst ourselves or even in front of other people and our friends. And we decided that maybe our conversations could be something that we could turn into a podcast. But basically the reason why Kyle and I work well together is probably because we think differently but not too differently that we fight all the time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my answer is the very, very short version is because she asked me to, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's just do it. Um, but just to expand on what she said, the very first time we prepped together, the first time we became teammates, it's not even that we didn't talk to each other. It was more like we spent more time playing games on our phones
Mm.
than actually talking to each other.
Not the
But then
best inspiration.
like the entire 15 minutes, it was like a solid 30 seconds of like, okay, what are we gonna do? And then another 30 seconds of, okay, I think we're done here.
Yeah.
And then we still ended up doing really, really well in the round itself. It was very spontaneous actually, and over time we got to realize that the way that we were prepping is like just like what she said, it was very like we were driving, I guess, to the point where you could literally see me starting a thought and then she would finish it. Mga ganong klaseng levels kami. Um, and we shared this like passion for it that I feel like no one else at the time or around me had. So we'd go out and we'd drink or do other like fun stuff like what other college people do that
Time
is
zone.
not, yeah, time zone stuff like that. And then all of a sudden we'd find ourselves going like, that's kind of debatable, isn't it? And then we'd start prepping on these weird
Mm,
little topics.
Mm.
So it really did become a big part of our regular daily lives. So
mm,
we're like, do you think that some people like would actually be interested in listening to us ranting about these types of topics? And then we're like, you know what, let's just start a podcast. And that's why
mm.
we decided together to do it.
Yeah, both of you just really click. And um, when you were starting a podcast, like, who did you intend to be the audience of that podcast?
So we intended it to be really for novices. Ideally, people who maybe are not interested in debate but like hearing people talk and argue about different issues, or people who are starting out debate and don't know what it's supposed to be like and what to expect from it. So we recognize that our podcast tries to be a lot. at the same time because we were trying to appeal to a non-debate audience while still being educational to novices and even veteran debaters if ever. So we really had that in mind, especially when starting out in like designing like our target market and even in crafting our episodes.
Yeah, same. It was really all about the novices, in my opinion. When we
Mm.
started, it was about the novices, and then over time, we ended up thinking like, okay, what if we also try to expand our reach and try to encourage more people to join debate or start debating, or just at least get curious about what it's all about? Because at least from my experiences, debate has been a really huge part in my development as a person. Like, if you knew me before debate, I was very difficult to like. Like, I was very difficult to like. I was constantly getting into fights, getting into trouble, and it was. I feel like it came from this idea that I wasn't able to express myself as
Mm.
like as well as I should have been for a person of my age, and like it ended up translating into like temper tantrums and really childish stuff like that I'm not really proud of. So when I started debating, I felt like I do have an outlet, and this is a place where I feel like my voice matters. And
Mm.
for that reason alone, I feel like I want to be able to share that experience with as many people as I can, as many people will be willing to listen. Because if it has changed my life, it might change another person's life. But it just so happens that they're not in a school or institution, or they're not in a situation that they have like a debate team in their school, or like good school funding. They can't afford a coach or things like that.
Mm. You
Mhm.
know what? I just want to share that, and I want to acknowledge the both of you for like demonstrating that you guys have heart. Like you guys have like, I don't know, you have a passion where, because sorry, I just want to rant like just a little bit, where
You go.
serve that people would only share debate knowledge if they're getting paid. But I really think that you're providing so much service to like a lot of people, even people outside of the Philippines, for the sole reason that you share debate knowledge for free. Um, and I just want to acknowledge like the both of you for doing that, because that also inspired me to create content on YouTube and make a Facebook group for that and all of those things. And I understand that the both of you are also coaches, and I just want to know, um, what is your favorite part about coaching, and what are the habits that you tell your students to do when you train for a tournament?
My favorite part of coaching is definitely knowing or hearing the training like come to life when they are finally in a debate round. So I really find satisfaction in knowing I've been able to help someone create good arguments or help them change their minds about different issues or even expand their knowledge about things. And that's why also I was really motivated to do a podcast because it's like coaching just to a wider audience,
Mm.
even people I haven't met in real life. So when I was coaching and when we were coaching SPCP, for me personally, my mantra was really like making sure that the kids always knew why they wanted to improve, like not just for the sake of improving but also for their own development outside of debating, making sure that they were better than their versions yesterday, making sure that they always like had a passion for knowledge as well. So that's I think what I wanted to carry out, regardless of what platform I was coaching in.
My absolute favorite part of coaching is seeing the people I've coached grow,
Mm.
like as people, because like hindi ko alam eh, hindi ko kaya ma-describe, but like kakaiba siya talaga. Like it's so different when like you see this very shy, timid person who sort of like shrinks every time you talk to her, shrinks every time she stands in front of like a group of people to speak. And then you see that person slowly like growing into like a force to be reckoned with,
Mm.
Mm.
like intellectually. And it never felt like an abrupt shift in like personality. I always like think about it as you just see like purer versions of themselves. I love seeing that. I love it when people meet themselves, meet what they are able to do, like better versions of themselves. That's the reason why our mantra again was it was always that it doesn't really matter if you win or lose. It's more about being stronger than you were the day before, stronger
Mm.
than you were the previous round or the previous speech that you made. And I always like try to impart to the kids what I call the like I don't know if I invented this or if like this came to me in a dream. Put that in a footnote. Um an external an internal scorecard because I think of like tournaments like points or whatever, team standings, those are external scorecards.
Mm.
But a lot of it a lot of it's based on things that you can't really control. So for example, like the luck of the draw or like the knowledge that you might have not had for this particular motion. Um but your attitude towards winning or losing is always within your control. So I always try to emphasize that you should really take a look more at your internal scorecard because if you
Mm.
focus on things that you can't control, then it's really, really difficult to find a long lasting sense of fulfillment in it, which is also why um, a lot of the time I like the very few times that I got emotional enough to cry because of the kids that I've coached. It was always because of like their own personal journeys, their own personal epiphanies rather than like their victories or their
Yeah.
losses.
That's awesome. And I was about to say something. I just wanted to share that, like, with some of my students, it's actually opposite with your students. Like, some of my students are overconfident, and sometimes it's like after they debate around, they're like, "We totally won that." And after like observing that round, I'm like, "No, you did not win that round." And then I make them search the Dunning Kruger effect, and then after like
Mm.
I told them to read the definition, and after they keep on after they read that definition to me, I see their faces like having this like kind of like cognitive dissonance of like what to believe. Did I really lose that round or not? And I just want the growth that I see with my students is is learning how to listen to others even when they disagree. And I think that's like 90% of debating, right? Like 90
Yeah,
Mm.
listen to other
absolutely.
people, and even your teammates. You also disagree with your teammates, and learning like how to listen to them as well. And I just really am passionate about talking to coaches, and I really admire coaches like you, is because I do agree with what you guys are saying about like the your rank or your medals and your trophies don't matter as much as like your breakthroughs as an individual,
Mm.
whether that's confidence, whether that's kindness, whether that's your ability to listen to other people with an open heart and an open mind. Those are the things that I guess for coaches like us make us more proud than those shiny things. At the
Yeah.
One thing that I would always say to my students is that if you're in your deathbed, what would you remember? Would you remember your rank? Would you remember like how much like you broke and your medals, or would you remember your relationships? Would you remember those conversations? And obviously it's always the latter, like those conversations and relationships and how we elevate the discourse. But what do you call this? I just want to know your take on this. So I was reading this book called Skin in the Game by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, and there was an idea there called intellectual yet idiot. And the way he described intellectual yet idiot is saying things about things that you don't experience about. So saying things about poverty, saying things about like vulnerable sectors and grassroots, but we never like drank with a cab driver or like shared the meal with a taong grasa and all those things. So we are like, when I read that part of the book, I was like, holy shucks. Like debaters and academics are like the intellectuals yet idiots that
Mm.
Nicolas Taleb is talking about. And I don't know, I had this unsettling feeling about then what should I do about debate? Because I know it helps, I know it makes people grow, but at the other side of it, maybe we're also using poverty as constructs so that we can get medals and trophies and like credentials. And I just don't know what to feel about that yet.
Mm.
Um, for me, I think it's absolutely correct. Um, like it's not like a new criticism against debating, that it's basically like intellectual masturbation, where it's not really you speaking about the poor because you care about them. A lot of the time it's because you want to win a particular debate round, which I agree isn't good. Actually, it's more than not good. It's straight up bad. It's straight up sinister actually. But I think we really should take steps to change that. But like we also have to think about like what can you expect people to do at this point, especially for example like you're looking at newer debaters and then you're asking them, okay, talk about Africa, talk about poverty. You can't really expect them at that moment to go out and talk to one of those impoverished individuals. But in my view, what debate does is it actually forces you to think about what those people might feel. And I think that is the proper first step towards making people actually and genuinely care about what those other people feel. So it is a tool with which we can start discussions that otherwise might not have happened. And from those discussions, people would probably want to learn more about um, what it is that they were talking about. Like, were they correct? Were they making stuff up? Was it inaccurate? Could they have learned something more? And that's the reason why it's really important that we emphasize the education aspect of it. Because if you're thinking about it as purely a game, then it doesn't encourage those like further inquiries into like social realities. But if you treat it as a learning experience, as a way to learn more about the world that you're inhabiting, about people who you've never met before, but um, are experiencing lives and realities absolutely completely different from yours, then it is a first step towards the changes that we do need in society.
Yeah.
So it might be intellectual masturbation for some,
Mm.
but it doesn't have to stay there. It shouldn't stay there, actually. And the first step is to emphasize that whatever you learn in the debate round, whatever you talk about, whatever you preach, you have to take it outside.
Mm. I guess like
Awesome.
it is true. Like for a lot of people, it is like that, and they stop merely at getting the medals and learning how to argue for a particular side, even if they don't know what to do next. I guess the first step would be to be aware of it. That debate is such a small world compared to what really is out there. That we shouldn't be content with just learning about these things. But we have to like have the urge to change it or encourage more people to at least know about these things. And like after that, I guess the next step would be to let others also be aware that you might be an intellectual but an idiot. I think that knowing that shouldn't make us feel bad but make us feel like motivated to do something more, which is why I agree with Kyle. It's really more about the education part of it. But we can't help that people will see it as a game and as a game alone. So for us who see the education part of it, and I'm sure you agree with this, it's our obligation now to inform people that it shouldn't stay a game and call them out if they like use other people's suffering as merely an argument and that alone.
Mm. Yeah. And one thing that I see that is concrete in terms of like straight heterosexual cisgender men is that, well, when I entered debate and started debating, I learned a lot about gender and feminism. And the concrete like change there was about understanding why it's important to respect people's pronouns. It's good that understanding why it's good to place your pronouns in your bio, like he, him, so that like or she, her, so that it's like normalized also for people who are trans. That people should be respecting people's pronouns at the end, like like I remember one of the debaters from Malaysia saying that before they were bigots in terms of thinking that gay people are wrong for being gay, but after being like debating for about
Straight up.
like different sides and different aspects of it, that these are what people are going through, and this is the oppression that they're facing, when all they really want is a normal life, or a life where they have dignity and where they are respected and not discriminated. So I think, like, hearing your thoughts about it, like so even in the worst case that it is a game, I think the aspects of the game makes also people become more compassionate and understanding, especially to those people who are misunderstood by society in general. Um, just to shift gears a bit, um, what's your favorite feedback that you've gotten from your audience out of Debatable?
Well, I think it's related as well to why we love coaching so much. So my favorite kind of comments are from debaters who message me and then thank me for a particular episode. Like, Ate Nina, because of this episode, we won this round because we had this niche idea and this niche argument that we got. And so that really warms my heart knowing that people are actually taking things away from the podcast, then packaging it to be their own arguments and using it in their own way. Like some of them would even message me and tell me like, "Oh, I got inspired by this idea of yours and I turned it into another idea."
I love
So
that. Yeah.
so seeing that they're actually like making new things from what we're providing is exactly the kind of growth I've wanted to see, and seeing that is like the most satisfying thing in my opinion.
For me,
Awesome.
I think my favorite, yeah, for me, I think my favorite feedback that I got from like audience members, well, you really like feedback from
Debaters.
novice debaters.
Yeah.
I really like feedback from non-debaters. And I always get surprised whenever like a non-debater recommends the podcast to
Yeah,
someone else.
same.
So like you know how these people go, like they search themselves on Twitter. So I did that with Debatable with Nina and Kyle, and a lot of it was just people recommending the podcast to their friends, and I kind of stalked them. I'm like, does this person follow any other debaters that I know? And then whenever like as a complete stranger to the debate community, or at least my section of the debate community, or the section that I'm familiar with, I always get shocked. Like, okay, we're reaching people who have never debated before, but are interested in it. I love it. I love it whenever um, non-debaters message us going like, "Oh, we really like this particular episode." The most recent one was um, a non-debater messaging us about like our episode about how politicians wash their
Their
hands
hands, yeah.
during times of disaster. And I remember like you were having a lot of fun writing the episode, and for it to be appreciated like by people even outside of the debate community is just the best thing in my opinion, because from the very beginning we knew that, okay, at the very least I think novices would appreciate this, but it
Yeah.
might be outlandish to non-debaters. So for me to see that we have been succeeding in making it more accessible to non-debaters is just something that I really like seeing.
Mm. In fact, in my TikTok live, there was one person who was watching who said that he or she or they, them, listened to your podcast on Spotify. So I'm like, hey, cool, that's awesome. And he was,
Nice.
that's
Cute.
awesome. Like, I'm looking at your podcast. I was listening to them before, Small World, whatever, all that stuff. My next question is, how do you deal with haters? Like, have you received hate comments? Because, like, for me as someone who is on TikTok and then talks about social issues, I receive like a ton of hate comments like every day. And for me, how I deal with it is like I just ignore it, like not give it power. Um, but how about for you, for the both of you? What's your mindset or mental model, or how do you deal with like haters? I still remember like there's one anonymous person on Curious Cat, Nina, just like way back,
Mm.
where the person was like, uh, where I got mad for you, to be honest, because like the nerve of this individual who this individual was like saying, "Why are you teaching debate? You're not even good." And I'm like, number one, Nina is like a national grand finalist. Who are you to say that? Biatch. And number two, at least like even if someone's not good, like the worst case scenario, at least sharing information is still like an actually like beneficial for people and all that stuff, like for people who can relate to you, all that stuff. So ako, like I just get angry for other people, but for myself, like parang I just try to ignore it because it's gonna drain the heck out of me. How about for the both of you? Like, what's your like? How do you deal with it? What's your mindset? How do you think?
I think we're very similar. Like I also get mad whenever I see you post about getting haters and stuff. But I know that you're able to handle it because I think we have the same mindset about it. So we got the last time we got hate, which is luckily for us not a lot. We're not yet in that level of fame. But we have received criticism saying that we're not as qualified compared to other debaters in the Philippines, for example, which might be
Oh, no!
true.
Sorry.
But in my mind it's about, well, one, that's fine, there's always going to be someone better, and that shouldn't stop us from making content that we want. And two, if other people want to rival us in content, that's not really a rivalry we will like turn down. It's something we'll even embrace. Like we're very happy when you started making debate related content because that just means more people like giving out education. So when we receive hate, I really let it slide. It's not something I let bother me. Or well, okay, I'm lying if I say it doesn't bother me. It did bother me for a while, but it really just motivated me to do better and to prove to people that there is a point to this. Even if you give us hate, we're still going to thrive. We're still going to help people regardless.
I think one of the reasons why, one of the possible reasons why we don't get as much hate as like I expected
Mm,
is that like I don't think Spotify has like a comment feature
that's true.
or something, like, because we do go really really hard on like some small issues.
Mm,
And I remember like I saw an article from, I think it was like ABS-CBN Lifestyle,
yeah.
where we were listed as one of the podcasts there. And then it said that we really went hard down on Duterte and his emergency powers. And I was like, okay, ABS-CBN, and then we're getting plugged by ABS-CBN. We're getting plugged as a podcast that criticizes this government. So I was really curious as to why we don't get
Yeah.
like as much hate as like I expected. So maybe it's because like they can't really comment on like Spotify, and they like trolls probably didn't take the time or effort to follow us first on Twitter or something.
Yeah. I think we're hard to find.
Yeah,
So
kind
we
of hard
don't
to
get
find.
a lot of hate comments, which is like for me that's fine. Like I will take it. I don't want us as much as possible. I want to minimize the hate in my life. So it's a welcomed part of being, a small time podcast as for now.
But also I was also thinking like, okay, fine. Even if there were haters, I really sincerely doubt anybody like could criticize me or my content more than I already criticize and hate on myself. Because I'm like one of those people that's super critical about like the things that I do and create. Um, so whenever I put something out, I 100% already expect that like people might nitpick on it, because I do nitpick on it. Like I listen to some of the episodes you already made, and I go like, there probably might have been a better way to word that. I probably shouldn't have said this. I say a lot. I should have edited that out. Those kinds of things. Um, so whenever I get hate, on the rare occasion I do get hate, I welcome it, because it's honestly the worst case is it's not as bad as the things I tell myself in my darkest nightmares. But the best case scenario is it's in good faith, and it is something that you can learn from, and like it's a constructive criticism, and we always welcome that.
Mhm. What do you call this? Where do you see debatable in like next year and in 5 years? Where do you see where are you taking this? Um, Sponsorships, uh, expanding to webcasts. I'm just curious. Like, where do you see? this debate education, posting it on media platforms? Where do you see where do you see taking where do you see this in what direction do you see this going to?
Right now, our we're taking baby steps. So our biggest goal now is to make it self-sustaining. Because right now we are taking money out of our own pockets to fund the podcast because equipment is expensive, and to host on Spotify we actually have to pay a hosting website to do that. So especially since the past few months we've been in quarantine, we haven't been able to sell our merch, which are the stickers, which is our main source of income. A lot of it has been we were actually operating on a deficit, which is fine and I don't mind. So I guess our next step is to find a way to get sponsors and at least be self-sustaining. After that, we're still not sure. We don't want to think too far ahead, and we want to enjoy right now. But I think, as everyone knows, we have Debatable open, so we're expanding to tournaments now. Kyle and I have also been talking about like launching a few more mini projects along the way. Can we say it? Do you want to say the idea already?
We were thinking about like making a planner.
Yeah, we do you remember the 2015 debaters journal?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we were planning to like get Vic Magilit's blessing to do that again under debatable for I'm not sure what year, but we're planning to do that as well, and to release more content that's outside of podcasting that will help people as much as possible. So maybe some workbooks, maybe some webcasts. We're not sure. Maybe a YouTube. We're just gonna see where it takes us. A lot of what we do is really just spur of the moment ideas. Like debatable open was something we started as a joke, and then one day we decided to make it a reality. Also, our idea for a planner, even the podcast itself, was just an idea Kyle and I thought of in a week. Right. So the future of debatable is in the hands of two very impulsive people. So we'll just see where that goes.
Well, I think
Debatable
like the
planner.
main
You
concern.
heard that first in the Bolo Pascual show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're supposed to
Like
say something.
sneak peek.
Yeah, but I think the most important thing is as long as we like connect with people, that is like our number one priority. It's really not about whether we profit from it. Like we actually we've never profited from this. When I remember, because when I was a very young debater, like it's full decade ago. I remember one of my coaches was like telling us that coaching is really a labor of love,
Mm.
because even if you do get paid, a lot of the time you're not really getting paid enough for the amount of time and effort that you put in. And I kind of I realize that now, like the full extent of it. I really do realize that now because we don't make that much money from it. But I also can't imagine a world where it wouldn't be fulfilling for me to do it.
Mm.
And I also can't imagine a world where I just straight up like stop doing it, like cold turkey, like I'm not gonna do this anymore. There are probably going to be times where we're gonna have like late uploads or whatever, but that's just because like law school is kind of difficult. It's kind of unreasonable sometimes. but but like as a whole, I we really just wanna put this out there. We really just wanna spread the news, spread the word.
Yeah, spread the ideas.
Let's talk about debatable open for a bit. How is it different from a normal tournament? I mean, like the debatable open has like different like aspects into it. I would love to hear about those aspects. I mean, I know about those aspects already because like, but like just for the audience, yeah, could you guys explain what goes on with debatable open and how is it different from other tournaments?
Okay, so this is the story. So Nino was debating at Padayon Open,
No, I was
and
Ajcore.
you were edge car at
Mm.
Padayon Open, and then the tournament just ended. It was really late. I just drank like my third cup of coffee for the night because I was planning to study until the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we had, like a tournament where we didn't have, like edge core?
Yeah, because I was so tired and Kyle felt so bad for me. So he's like, "Why can is there a way for us not to get Ajcore so tired and exhausted after tournament?" So his logic was obviously like maybe we shouldn't have any Ajcore, and that's the best way we don't tire them out. So I played along with the joke and I was like, yeah, instead of getting Ajcore, you could just get people to make motions, one person, one motion set. And that way they don't even have to be in the tournament or supervise a lot of it. And the org com can just be in charge.
Yeah,
And
and then it kind of snowballed from there because you ended up going like, okay, so we don't have an edge score. What we have are motion contributors, and wouldn't it be cool if they share thing like the motions that they set are about things that they're truly like genuinely passionate about. And wouldn't it be even cooler if after they do the tournament, after they do contribute the motions, if they were able to share exactly what about that topic that they like so much. And this is where we thought about the idea of a post debate analysis, which is something that has been done before in a lot of tournaments actually, but it kind of fell out of relevance lately because of time constraints, the
yeah.
normal goings on in tournaments. So I was also thinking like, what if aside from having motion contributors, they all have their own PDAs. And that's when it clicked to us that this is a great experiment for us to think about how to merge education and a debate competition. So then we also thought about what was in it for adjudicators. And
Yeah.
that's when Nina thought of this great idea, which is to have live edge feedback.
Yeah. So the idea there would be that you know how debaters usually get personal comments after the round, but
Mhm.
we don't have the same system for judges.
Mhm.
So the idea I had was to make sure that judges also got live feedback. Of course, not knowing their scores, but through the tabber system that already exists will allow them to access the comments that they receive. And this is also a way to encourage debaters to be kinder when giving
Mhm.
comments, because I think you've noticed there's a recent trend where people are just really mean
Yeah.
in
Super.
giving feedback, and I'm not sure why. Like, who are you ranting to? The people who will read it are the same people that you are ranting about, and you're just making them feel bad. So the incentive there was to help judges get better, but to also tame a lot of the debaters that use the feedback form as a like unguided complaint form, right? So that's the other concept that we thought of. So overall, we just wanted to experiment with this tournament. It's also going to be in the Asians format, so we wanted to see how vetoes would be online. But I know there are now a lot of tournaments that are going to be Asians before
Yeah.
ours. Yeah, so we'll just hopefully
Observe.
observe and then figure out how to implement veto properly via Discord. Um, Besides that, I would say the biggest feature of Debatable Open is merging it with a platform we already have. So
Mhm.
post debate analysis, I think the issue with it in most times is, besides the fact that no one does it anymore, is even when it is done, only a few people get to hear it. If you're
Mhm.
in the convening room, you get to hear it. But after the tournament ends, no one really has a recording of it. No one has a copy of it. It's lost in like whatever void exists.
Mhm.
So we wanted to make sure that it gets preserved. That way, even people who are outside the tournament get to learn from the motions, get to have an understanding of the motions. Because when a tournament ends, no, you notice how the motions don't repeat until maybe a few years into the future. But that's a shame because if the idea was really good and the motion was really good, if you weren't in that tournament, you don't get an insight on what the arguments were unless you ask someone who is in the know. So we wanted to be those the supplier basically of ideas to people, like regardless of time and space, so that even after the term is done, they can still access.
So
So
it's
that's
gonna
it.
be in the
Yeah, it's
debatable podcast, the post debate analysis.
Yeah,
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 so the post-debate analysis will be released twice. So the first time it will be released will be directly to the participants. So primarily it was for the participants. And then after the tournament ends, that's when we're gonna post it, publish it on the podcast so that, people might look back on it or people might discover those motions. I'm also very happy pala to report that As of right now, phase one is ongoing, and we were really marketing this as marketing the tournament as a way to learn, especially if you're a novice. So that's why I'm extremely happy that majority of the speakers in this tournament, I think like a full 3/4 of it, like 75% of the speakers who are currently signed up as of right now on after phase one or
During phase
during phase one novices. So like we promised like a novice break, but now I'm thinking like this is new because most of the time if a tournament has a novice break versus an open break, the novice break is usually smaller than the
Mm.
open break. But in this case, you're thinking like it kind of looks like the novice break might be bigger
Bigger.
than the open break.
Yeah. So we might have just open until semifinals, but like full on octo finals for the novices, which is so
That is
exciting to me because
awesome.
it's been so long. I don't think any tournament has done that. Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah, and it also puts the spotlight on the novices for a change. It gives them more,
Mm.
and I think there's like a lot of good coming out of that. Um, well, we're going on at an end because I rented my mom's room for like an so I prepared rapid fire questions for the both of you.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
just like random questions. And also like chismes. I don't know if like
Hmm.
just say no. I don't want to answer that. No, I was kidding. Okay. First rapid fire question. Most favorite theme in debate.
IR.
Religion and art
Damn.
or philo.
Dami.
Awesome. Least favorite theme in debate.
Econ.
Econ and law, even though those are my majors.
Okay. Your number one debate pet peeve.
When people say houses instead of house.
When debaters think that they're better than non-debaters.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. I see. Favorite local tournament. Local meaning in the Philippines.
LIV.
LIV and second place is Mint.
LIV. Me too. Oh,
Same.
awesome. Favorite international tournament.
UADC.
For sentimental reasons, ASDC because my very first tournament was ASDC 2010.
Your very first?
My second tournament
Okay,
was
okay.
the first one was Idealite and
Okay,
then
okay.
ASDC.
Wow, what a
Okay,
jump.
let's get a bit more juicy. Favorite alum. No? You
Sir
can say,
Martin.
mm,
Sir Martin.
Sir Martin straight up wrecked me in first
Sir
year.
Martin.
Um,
okay.
Glenn Tozan, I love his voice.
Mm.
Wow.
Like his brain also.
What a reason.
But Glenn Tozan talaga.
No, I was asking like alum from your own insti.
Oh, Sir
Yeah.
Martin.
Sir Martin,
Martin,
Sir
for
I
Martin,
sure.
straight up.
Okay, so favorite dinosaur outside of your insti. So Kyle,
Oh, that yours,
Yun, Glenn.
yours is Glenn. Oh, my favorite dinosaur. Oh. Hmm. Giano.
Jana Leewood. Awesome. Cool.
Yan.
Favorite debater of all time. You can't say each
Oh,
other.
of all time.
You can't say each other.
It's so hard. Oh man, that's a cheap way to go.
Very
about it.
safe na.
Yeah, very safe.
Sheng Wuli.
That's also very safe. How dare you?
But no, it's true. Like Sheng Wuli
Yeah,
talaga.
fine. I don't have one. Sadly,
Okay, I
I'll
see.
just leave it at that. I don't have one.
Last two. Most. Who
Changes.
do you think is the most iconic debater of all time?
Leslie Torres.
Mm.
The style.
The Leslie Torres.
The Leslie Torres. Do you agree?
You agree,
Yeah,
Kyle?
the Leslie Torres.
Right, awesome.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
last one. Toughest opponent that you have ever faced in debate.
As a team, Papat and Kitty.
Okay.
Annoying to go
Cool.
against, but we love you, Papat. We love you, Kitty.
They're
they're super
absolutely
tough.
amazing people.
It's tough
Super
to judge
tough.
them too.
I agree.
Like I love going against. I love being in a room with Papa and like I see him like get super stressed about everything, and it also gets you stressed and agit. Everyone's agit. So yeah, I agree. As a team, Kitty and Papat. But
Individually.
Also, individually, maybe every single Atenean debater, like all of them, every single one of them. But Sora, shout out to Katrina Chan because
Mm.
I lost two national grand finals to her. The first one was in high school, the second one was in college.
Yeah, I would
Chat
agree.
is indeed.
Also, all Ateneo debaters.
Mhm.
But like, I mean that from the bottom of my heart in a good way, you know? Like, I
Yeah.
In the
love
best way
in the best
possible.
way possible.
Because
Yeah.
we were thinking like, what themes are they good at? Like, for example, I'm good at religion, you're good at IR. What themes are Ateneans good at? And we're
It's
like,
like
Everything.
everything.
they're good at everything.
Everything.
They're good at, and the thing about it
um
is like they're really good at skills. Like their foundational skills very very strong, and that's like something that is absolutely amazing about them.
last na. Current college debaters, like three, that's under your radar. Just like just like observing how well they do in tournaments and just like
Mm.
watching their videos or like hearing news about them. Like who are the top three debaters under your
Who
radar
is
for you?
that judge? Who is that judge that we always get? The name escapes me, but there is one that I'm always curious about.
Toby.
Yeah, Toby.
Mm-hmm.
Toby Leong
Yung,
is
mm-hmm.
one. If you're listening, hello. I'm very interested in you. I guess
I'm
uh,
very interested in you.
in a debate way. In a debate way. Sorry, I should have clarified. Sorry, it's getting late. Um, the next would be, yeah, I think this is rather biased, but it's UPDS, like CJ Carlos.
God damn it.
Mhm.
Yeah, because he's making
Yeah, yeah.
strides, and it's like the growth is exponential. So I'm very curious about that.
Mhm.
And Bea Legaspi, which is also I feel like a safe answer, but I can't you can't deny like her growth is
Mm.
exponential, and
Since
she's
high
been joining
school.
a tournament every weekend ever since high school.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You took the exact same three. So I guess like, okay, if we're following like Family Feud rules, where we can say like the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
things. Um, Miko,
Mm.
Miko.
yeah, Miko Vitog. But like that's kind of unfair because it's not something like I really can't wait to see how much Miko Vito grows the next tournament because it's just like it feels like a static condition. Like this person is just really really good. You know,
Mhm.
like oh
Yeah,
wow,
and he got under your radar because he's under everyone's
he's under
radar already.
everyone's radar. He's like he's like the sun.
Yeah.
If the sun was on your radar, like
Yeah.
something like that. Um, okay, so Miko, um,
An SVCP kid, maybe?
I was gonna say Bea
But yeah,
Quizon.
I was
I
gonna
was
say
gonna say
Bessie.
Bessie. I also think that another UPDS kid, um, Christine Makusi, has
Mm.
been super impressive to me lately because I remember like she started out like really really shy, um, and it was super fun to me. Like I just dropped out of like the debate circuit for a while because I was studying for like midterms or something. That was all of a sudden I hear one of her speeches and she speaks like an absolute mad lad. Like sobrang I am very impressed but also very scared.
Yeah,
Like
it was like
that's the
rapping. It was like
like
rapping. It
it's
was
like rapping.
intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
that's it.
those are the three.
Awesome. Okay, one way that I'd like to end this podcast episode webcast. Actually, it's not a podcast; it's a webcast.
It's
Anyway,
a webcast, right?
yeah, but I'm gonna post it soon. There's also like when you download it from Zoom, like there's a video version and audio version. So like I have the audio
Mm.
compiled and all that stuff. Yeah, the message that you'd like to give to the debate community, the Philippine debate community, like just any
Oh,
inspirational like sound bite that I could get from you that I can make as a micro piece of content.
okay. You first.
I think in these really, really uncertain times, you know, it is really easy to feel like the world is ending. um, but there's always a way out of it, like to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And when you like come out of it, you're a better person, or like the world is better off than it was before. So I feel like if debate is a way to see sort of those pathways towards that light, then we should be able to provide that for as many people as we can. Because right now feel an overwhelming sense of dread, the sense of hopelessness, and I always get the sense that it's at these points in our lives in history where it seems very difficult to see the light, that we have to realize that perhaps it's time to make our own light. And if debate is a way to find that, to create it, to nurture people to be able to create their own light, their own sense of hope, and nurture that in other people as well, perhaps through collective action, perhaps through their own forms of activism, then it's something that we should definitely look into, something we should definitely invest into as well.
Yeah. What I'd have to say is that, everyone is born with a voice. It's just a matter of learning how to use it and learning when to use it. Everyone has an idea. Everyone has something to complain about. Everyone's having a hard time, no matter how big or how small. It's just a matter of how you're going to use what you have right now to get yourself out of that situation and help others get out of theirs. That's all.
Awesome sauce. Thank you so much. And that is the Bolo Pascual Show episode number 28 or 29. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for your time. This was fun. This was awesome.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording now.